Her name is Margaret, but she prefers the moniker Margot. My name is Gracie, and our daughter's name is Margaret. There is no doubt that she is her father's daughter. There is a reason why we do not get along very well. I believe it is because both she and I are con artists. I have been unfaithful to my husband on occasion during the entirety of our marriage. I have a sex addiction, and Jack isn't on the same level as I am when it comes to sexual activity. I just can't help myself. However, that is not the reason I chose to marry him. He was simple to manage and had an excellent understanding of how to make a lot of money, so I decided to marry him. This may come off as icy to you, but if that is the case, then you most likely reside in a trailer and drive a Ford. In addition to living in a lavish estate, I drive a Mercedes S-Series at the moment. You shouldn't judge me if you've made the decision to settle down, or if you haven't made any preparations for the future. At no point did Jack cheat on me. When he was younger, he was like a cute little puppy that would follow me around everywhere. The bedroom was where I instructed him on everything, and fortunately he believed my assertion that I had learned everything from the internet. As a result of my training, he is now pretty darn close to being on par with me in bed. I am not saying that he is not on par with me in bed. Maybe this is the reason why I am so upset over the possibility of our divorce. That is to say, at some moment or another, everyone is caught. When it came to my situation, my daughter skipped school in order to record my sexual encounter with a Dominican Republic resident who was lustful. She did this by using the high-definition camera on the phone that I had purchased for her earlier. God, what a monstrous creature I reared! I ought to have gotten an abortion at the appropriate time, but she was the one who tied Jack to me when we were younger and making decisions that were questionable. When situations call for it, hindsight is never helpful. On the day that I arrived home, I noticed that she was smiling at me and running upstairs. That was the moment when I entered the living room, and I immediately found myself in the middle of a nightmare. The television broadcast my most recent sexual encounter. In front of him, Jack sat with tears streaming down his face and a high-pitched sound emanating from around his chest. The gradual demise of my marriage occurred right in front of my eyes. Although my head was telling me to run and take the cord from the socket, my body was in shock and I was unable to move. We were both witnesses to me engaging in sexual activity with a young pupil. And if all went according to plan, even at this point in time my spouse would be aroused, and then we might just be able to reach a consensus. However, that was not to be. He finally got up and hurled the remote control at our extremely costly ultra-high-definition flat-screen television. His eyes met mine, and all I could see was something that could be described as blind wrath or hatred. His head turned like a tower to confront me. I am unable to provide a definition for it. I thought I knew about the issues that might arise between men and women, how it rarely works out, but I continued to try like a fool. Jack, I can explain. It was an accident, or God's providence, right? I asked. He was clenching and unclenching his hands, and his breathing was labored and rapid. After meeting him for the first time, I experienced genuine fear that he would cause me harm for the first time. In a peculiar manner, it seemed as though he was not surprised by my affair nonetheless. I did not have the opportunity to give it proper consideration. Rather than that, he raced into the garage, and I heard the engine of his truck start up. It was an old Ford that he continued to drive. It was a common joke among them that whenever he went out to care for his animal patients, he was considered to have earned farm credit. Even after he retired from his career as a veterinarian, he continued to own that ridiculous pickup truck. Almost immediately after that, I became aware of the beginning of the opening of the automatic garage door, and before I could make my way into the driveway, he drove out into the street. I heard my monster, my offspring, also standing on the stairway and peering out the panoramic window. "Please, God, let him buckle up," I heard him say. "What the hell do you care?" "You did this to him," I yelled back. "What do you mean I did this to him, my hopefully soon-to-be ex-mother? I didn't have sex with a guy while I was married, with a guy young enough to be my boyfriend. You are so monumentally naive. What an evil monster I raised." I was desperate for her to leave this place. In order to save my life, I began formulating a strategy, and the first thing I did was to deliver the prude to her parental figures. Following that, I of course took her phone away from her and ruined the DVD that she had burned so that her father could watch it. "You are going to visit your grandparents." I would advise not to mention any of this to them. You no longer have any proof, and I can certainly make your life extremely difficult while you live under this roof. You're crazy if you think I won't be able to control your father once he calms down, so don't make a kid of me finally. I let out a scream. Initially, I was under the impression that she fled to the upper floor because of fear, however. At the time I was not aware of cloud computing. After a day had passed, I believed that my daughter was safe and secure, concealed in a location where she could no longer cause me damage. Finally, my husband came home. His eyes were red, and he appeared to be awake. He appeared to be thinking about something. Without changing my clothes, I scratched my eyes furiously when I heard him come. I had not changed my clothes. I made an effort to pretend that I was in a dreadful condition as he entered the living room. "Please forgive me. I must have had a nervous breakdown," I sniffed as I carefully exhaled in the voice of a young girl. "I am sorry for the inconvenience. I don't know what came over me to allow this to happen." Even though he was in pain, his stare was icy. It was filled with a variety of feelings that were beyond one's comprehension. As I cautiously stood up and hugged him, I became aware that he did not reciprocate my expression of affection. At that moment he did nothing but stand there, still like a tree or a fence post. "I failed you, us, and our daughter. I can't undo what I did. I love you, sob, and I won't fight if you want to leave me." I made a calculated gamble. The outcome might have been either positive or negative, but I believed that the odds were clearly in my favor. At last he commented, "Would you please stop rubbing yourself against me because I can't concentrate when you do that. I'm tired and I need more time to think without your influence. I'm going to sleep in the bedroom for a while with the door locked. So you need to take everything you need from there and go to the spare bedroom." It is fortunate that he did not give in to the notion of getting a divorce. I dashed up to the upper floor, where I retrieved a few items from the closet and the master bathroom, and then I brought them to the spare bedroom that was located down the corridor. As I was walking back, the door's lock made a clicking sound. I made a soft knock on the door and asked Jack, "Would it be possible for us to talk at least soon? We can talk in the morning now," came the most difficult part. My goal was to appear even more unattractive, therefore I refrained from consuming any food or water. I proceeded to ruffle my hair even further and then inserted my finger down my throat in an attempt to throw up some fluids on my sundress. The appearance was finished off with some snot that was applied with care. In addition to that, I put a glass of vodka next to me and applied a small amount of Vaseline on the palm of my hand. I compelled myself to remain awake throughout the remainder of the day and night in order to give the impression that I was exhausted. I hurriedly smeared Vaseline on my teeth in order to maintain the appearance of a smile when Jack arrived the following morning. I did this in order to keep my lips exposed. I also used a couple of drops of the remaining vodka to splash into my eyes in order to cause my eyes to get red and to start crying. Although it was excruciatingly painful, it was essential. I noticed that he appeared to be in much better shape, despite the fact that he was in utter disbelief. The fact that he appeared to be overly concerned about my appearance was even more impressive. However, he continued to adore me. I had a chance. As he lifted me up and brought me to the master bedroom, he said, "Oh my God, Grace, you look terrible. Let me get you to bed." While he took me into the room and placed me down, I sobbed uncontrollably on his shoulder. It got even better when he lay down next to me and started talking. "You hurt me, Grace. You really shook the pillars of heaven, but I don't want you to hurt yourself. Mom called and said they were taking care of Margot, so we need to talk." He looked confused but continued, "I thought about it very hard. I mean, harder than I've ever thought about in my life. I think I might be willing to give you another chance, but you need some counseling about your issues. There is something else." In a hushed voice I said, "Whatever, my love. I swear I was truly shocked. I had created a monster out of my loving husband, and he was determined to disfigure me." He almost shouted. I think he was more outraged than he seemed. "There's one more thing, Grace. You probably won't like it, but I need you to feel the soul-crushing pain you put me through. I can't tell you when this will happen, but sometime in the future, but I'm going to sleep with another woman and film it. If you want us to continue, you'll have to watch me have sex with someone else. Then we'll be even." I was truly shocked. I had created a monster out of my loving husband, and he was determined to disfigure me. In spite of the fact that the mere idea of him doing to another woman what I had done to my lovers was nearly intolerable, I needed him. In order to regain control of my life, I had to go through this. I intend to carry out the same action at some point in the future after I have exacted my vengeance. Since I am unable to take the chance of having another kid, you are free to try to bind me to you even further. Jack, My darling, I am able to comprehend. Although I would prefer not to experience the same suffering, I will do this in order to keep you. Because of this, I am willing to endure anything. Despite the fact that I thought it was a little bit silly, you have to do what you have to do. Over the course of the subsequent few months, we established a rigorous routine regimen. After returning to the house, my devil child made it very plain that she was unable to comprehend the reason why we did not get a divorce. All I did was give her a friendly smile and tell her that I am the head of this family. From that point forward, she did not explicitly challenge me again. In addition, counseling was simple. I just attributed my addiction to sexual activity. My husband was treated like a baby by the doctor, who devoured it and then burped it up for him. The issue was that, as I indicated earlier, my spouse was making an attempt to have sexual relations with me in a manner that was completely ridiculous. I was unable to get control of the bedroom because he took it away from me. But each and every one of his trips with me, I couldn't help but worry if he had picked up his new passionate tactics from another woman. I was concerned when he did not have sex with me, since he stated that he was either unwell or exhausted. To what extent was it feasible that I would witness him making out with a young girl the following day, and that he might even fall in love with her? The consequence of the accumulated effects was catastrophic. Throughout the course of the year, I gradually lost all of my self-confidence. My husband was the only person I could rely on because I could not take the chance of him finding out about my extramarital affair. The fact that he did not pay attention to me made me feel unhappy. While I was not overweight to begin with, I was able to shed several pounds. It even affected my hair, which became brittle and lost its shine. I was told by someone at my place of employment that I appeared to have been knocked unconscious and had aged 10 years. Because of the pain in my joints, I was unable to sleep. I could have been getting older too soon. The most unfortunate aspect is that I began to develop an unhealthy obsession with my husband, and dare I say it, I actually love him. Everything was placed under his control. Every day I anticipated that my entire world would be ripped away from me, and that my Jack would, like a villainous priest in a movie, chuckle gleefully and reach into my chest in order to pluck out my throbbing heart. The strategy I had was a disaster. Who could have ever imagined that the primary investigator would end up falling into a trap that she had herself set? In the end, after nearly a year has passed, I am unable to take it any longer. I made the decision to turn off the engine and see the results. Following the decision to send my daughter back to her grandparents, I made the decision to discuss the situation with my devoted spouse. In spite of the fact that I had a lot of affection for him, I was going to leave him if he did not make a choice or get off the potty. Once and for all, I am unable to endure any more suffering. Jack, I can't stand it anymore. I need you to hurry up and find this other woman, have sex with her, and let me watch the tape so we can get through this. He was nothing but staring at me. As I came to the realization that this look was the same as the one he had given me a year earlier, I felt goosebumps crawl across my body. It was the expression of a bug collector when he sees a particularly interesting bug that he wants to capture, or it could have been the frantic stare of a young psychopath who was burning ants with a magnifying glass. "What have I done with my actions? Do you really think I can stoop to your level, Gracie?" he asked in a chilly tone of voice. "What have I done with my actions? My entire name was used by him, which was something he never did before because he preferred to be known by the nickname Grace. I never intended to do what I told you. All I've done this year is push you. I wanted you to finally love me so that when you could no longer bear the worries and doubts, you would give me an ultimatum." He rose from his seat and entered his workplace. After I heard the key turn in the lock, he returned with a hefty packet. I was able to recognize him. "You can sign it or not, I don't care. We've come full circle, you and me. I don't care one iota about you anymore, and you seem to love me. I wouldn't care while you have a hard time imagining me sleeping with some woman out of revenge. You see, now you feel what I felt before. You know what it's like to wonder every day if the one you love is going to give up that love and trust for just sex." I looked at the documents he handed me, which were divorce papers that had been signed and dated just under a year ago. He said, "A year ago, I had no intention of deciding anything. I just wanted to hurt you as much as possible without putting you through physical torture." It was difficult to make out the specifics because of my emotions, but at that time it didn't really matter. There was one chance, Gracie W. If during this time you had admitted everything, stopped trying to pass it off as some kind of mental problem, and actually apologized, we could have made peace. But you didn't. You were dodging and trying to get out, just as I suspected. I'm not stupid, Gracie. I have had my suspicions for a long time, and I am quite sure that this student was not your first outsider. I let it go because of our daughter and because I loved you. Anyway, we're done. Sign the papers if you want, but either way, take your things and leave. Margot will stay with me, she's old enough to choose. And that means I'll run the house until she finishes school. You make more money than me, so good luck getting alimony. Leave, Margot will be home soon, and I don't want you here. I was Frankenstein looking at what I had created. Although I was under the impression that I would not succumb to pneumonia anytime soon, I was, on the inside, as lifeless as Mary Shelley, the author of The Monsters. It was all sown by him. In fact, I couldn't help but wonder whether his suspicions and plans started about the same time that he made the decision to become a truck driver. My possibilities of utilizing alimony as a weapon to delay the divorce were significantly decreased as a result of this, which undoubtedly contributed to a change in the balance of money earned between us. In addition, he was correct in his assertion that my daughter was of an age where she could make the decision regarding her living situation for the purposes of child custody. The truth is that the deal was more than fair, considering that he was making less money and would most likely become the custodian of the property. It's possible that I'll be required to pay him child support. It would be foolish of me to litigate the entire thing, which would tie it up for months or years, but the massive financial cost of having a lawyer work for such a lengthy period of time would make it impossible. Due to the few choices available to me, I unwillingly signed the documents at that very moment, packed a few things along the way before departing. The remaining items can be picked up by the movers, of course. In the end, goods are nothing more than property. I no longer possess what it is that I truly desire. In spite of the fact that this should have been the conclusion of my unfortunate story, my daughter posted my embarrassing activities from the cloud to the website of my mother-in-law, making it abundantly apparent that she did not fear me and that she did not wish to see me ever again. My amateur movies had a speedy fallout, much more so than the litigation that led to their removal, which brought about the removal of the recordings. My position as a veterinarian was terminated, and I was compelled to hunt for work in another state where I could provide an explanation for my unexpected termination. I have no doubt that I will eventually be able to triumph over the agony, the dreadful sensation that I was being shattered into bits. Even if I don't forget Jack, I could still be a suitable replacement for him because I am still attractive enough. It's simply that I'm not too sure what the potential benefits are. When I was in a previous marriage, I made the mistake of not loving my partner to the fullest extent possible, and look where that led me to. I am not even close to being as powerful as Jack. After giving me a full year to behave in a manner that was honest and appropriate, Jack gave me the opportunity to reapply for his acceptance. I was unable to complete it. When it comes to my romantic life at the moment, I am in a few casual relationships, but I am emotionally numb and lifeless on the inside. My affection for the monsters I made has not diminished. If you want to make sure that your second chaff does not cheat on you, you should subscribe to our channel. Additionally, you should be sure to listen to the following story, because this one is nothing in comparison to the one that comes after it. If you are younger than 18 years old, you should not even consider listening to the following one.